Welcome back. You're still tuned in to News and Views. Time is 5 minutes before top of the hour 9. And we're going to be switching gears now to a story that's closer to home. And this is going to be an interesting one because we saw a lot of hurrah and excitement when there was a deployment of the South African National Defence Force to gang hotspots. But it looks like violence continues to grip communities, especially on the Cape Flats, with recent reports of multiple shootings and rising deaths. Authorities say the military is there to support police, but critics argue it's not really a long-term solution. I think we can all agree to that. In fact, some communities say gangs are still operating with ease, raising serious questions about whether this intervention is making any kind of real impact. The Cape Flats, I think, as we all know, has been long plagued by gang violence, rooted in some of the socio-economic issues that I think need a lot of fixing, whether it's poverty, whether it's unemployment, or just access to education as a whole, and deep social inequalities. These are some of the issues that can't be, I think we can all agree, can't be solved through violence and force alone. They need a deeper kind of look into them. And we're joined now by a prominent activist. He's also CEO of Inspire Network and veteran lead in Elsies River, the CPF community, Imraahn Mukaddam, to help us unpack whether guns still rule the Cape Flats and what do they make of the SANDF and the deployment of soldiers into some of these hot spots. Imraahn, salamu alaikum, jazakallah so much. Welcome to News and Views.
To the listeners as well.
No, the pleasure is all ours. Really appreciate you giving us your time, and I think we'll jump right into it. The deployment of SANDF, I think, to a lot of people, raised a lot of excitement. People thought this is what was needed for a long time. Communities have been calling for the deployment of the SANDF into these gang hotspots. But from your perspective, what do you make of it? What's your assessment of these deployments? Are they making a difference? Will they make a long-term difference, which is what everyone is hoping for?
Well, it will appear that the police on their own are unable to contain the gang problem, especially on the Cape Flats, but also in the rest of the country. And the deployment of the army as a force multiplier to reinforce the numbers, basically, might be justified, but we believe it's actually an admission of failure of the state and the police, that they're actually losing the war, and they're now actually calling reinforcements. That being said, we're still seeing unacceptable levels of violence. We had a situation just last week in my town, Elsies River, where 6 people were shot in one incident, and 2 young boys, 14 and 16, actually died in this incident. So we're still seeing unacceptable levels of violence, and we haven't seen the actual deployment of the army as such on the Cape Flats as promised. We believe the actual deployment will only start in April. But we have seen in past deployments in 2019 and during COVID, that there is an initial impact. The first couple of weeks, you see some calm restoring to the streets, but very quickly it's business as usual for the gangs as they adapt to the new paradigm, and as they find ways around the additional presence of boots on the ground.
And I think that's very, very concerning. And there's been a lot of criticism, as you mentioned, with the military intervention. Many argue that it is only a short-term fix. Do you agree, or do you think there should be, a bit more that can be done, whether it's youth unemployment, trying to tackle that, the inequality that exists within, parts of Cape Town, and also just generally the socio-economic structures and the social fabric of our communities? Is that more of, importance to tackle than to try and use force on a surface level.
Most definitely, the the root causes of crime, needs to be addressed aggressively. We need to find um, jobs for young people on the streets. We need to find additional psychosocial support in schools, especially. We need to find and finance more drug rehabilitation centers. We have a huge epidemic of substance abuse. We have to find recreational facilities and spend money on rebuilding our township so that it becomes youth friendly. We have to look at all the root causes of what actually fuels the frustration and the violence and the anger amongst young people, especially. And the gang problem and the crime problem is a manifestation of a much bigger social economic dilemma that we face, especially in townships on the Cape Flats and the rest of the country. We especially our youth unemployment rate is at about 60%. So young people are despondent, young people are frustrated, and throwing boots at it, they're throwing extra forces at the problem is actually exacerbating it. It's making it worse because as much as you will be able to, get more of the perpetrators off the streets, you're not addressing the real issues that is driving this. I mean, at the same time, there is a political element to it. There is a agenda that's flooding the Cape Flats, it's flooding our townships with guns and drugs. So there is external forces at play that want to destabilize our communities, and we need to find the root cause of this, and we need to neutralize these forces, whether it's the international drug syndicates, whether it's as we see in the Maslanga Commission, the syndicates, the top five and the big five, and all of these revelations of police corruption and corruption within the political sphere. That it's all contributing factors to the levels of crime that we as South Africans are exposed to. So root causes are much more important, and there seems to be not enough political will in terms of, especially the current GNU, to address a real transformation within our more impoverished areas. We are seeing a lot more investment in in your affluent areas than you do within our townships, and it's about time that we really start looking at how we can address our, our societal influences as a whole.
No, most definitely. But I'm sure it can't be all doom and gloom. The deployment of the SANDF. Are there any positives that you think can be drawn from it? Do you think there could be some elements that they can assist with? Because to be honest, this is what our communities have been calling for a very, very long time. And now that they are making their way to our communities, we can't now all of a sudden say, well, they're useless. They won't be making any kind of difference. From your perspective, knowing and understanding the situation in our communities, do you see at some level the presence of the SANDF being a positive?
Most definitely, the SANDF will have an impact, and the current forces are not competent enough to deal with the issues on their own. The level of violence, the sophistication of the arms being used, the sophistication of actual crime syndicates and the way they operate. So yes, the presence of the SANDF will relieve some of the workload on SAPs, and we would advise that SAPs use, not only SAPs but the whole justice cluster uses this opportunity. I think it's going to be for a year that the SANDF will be deployed initially, to use this period to intensify, especially, for instance, detective work, and ensure that more police officers are redirected in crime detection, and also making sure that cases get finalized and get court ready. We should use this opportunity also for our prosecuting authorities, um, to speed up the casework and case loads, because obviously there will be more risk with so much more forces available. To speed up the time it takes from a case, from actual arrest to conviction. It's a time for us to also maybe work on our prison systems and correctional services, where they should also be using this opportunity to enhance their rehabilitation capacity, so that young people, when they go through the legal system and through the justice system, when they come out on the other side, that they actually come back not worse but better, so that they have rehabilitated. And in most cases, the attrition rate for criminals at the moment is about 87%, meaning 87% of uh, released criminals from the prison system reoffend. So we actually are dealing with a problem that we're not fixing the root causes, which is societal, and then also the remedial system, which is our courts and our prisons, needs a lot more attention. And maybe the presence of the army should be used as an opportunity for us to even feed more social workers into our schools and into our communities to deal with the social issues. So yes, if the approach is much more holistic and the use of the army is done in order to facilitate these kind of interventions, then definitely the army can make it. But if it's only to show force and only to assist in you know showing the gangsters and multiplying the rest, then we're not fixing the problem. In a year from now, the army will have to call in again, or we'll have to have double the army to deal with the problems. And we have to look at a much more holistic approach to fixing the underlying issues that's contributing to crime.
No, most definitely. I think we're going to leave it that note, Brother Imraahn. Thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure. And I think we'll be chatting soon on the 1st of April, hopefully, when the SANDF boots finally hit the ground in the Cape Flats area. But we're going to do for now. Really appreciate it.
Shukran, Ferry.
There we go. And with that, we're going to take a quick break. News and Views continues after this.